This is Dear Strategy, episode 115. Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies, just like yours. Welcome back, strategy creators, to another great episode. This is episode 115. And today I'm going to go to a strategy story. It's not a specific story. It's going to be just around an issue that actually I promised that I would talk about. Funny thing, though, I went to my show list. You know, as I think I've talked about before, I plan out all my episodes, the questions and stories that I want to talk about. And this week, the story I was going to talk about had to do with the Green New Deal. Now, this is interesting because I wasn't going to take a political position on the Green New Deal. I was going to approach it more from the standpoint of, is it realistic, right? Because the Green New Deal is kind of a strategy, right? It's something that was put through to say, hey, we have an end goal of what we want to achieve, and here's the way that we want to achieve it. But most people would argue that many of those things that were put in there as a way to achieve the overall goal were way overreaching, right? There was no realistic way to achieve some of those things or to make some of those things happen. And so there was a lot of concerns and a lot of buzz about that. And no matter what side of the political coin you're on, I think most people would agree that many things that were in that Green New Deal were just wish lists, right? And so it kind of talked to, is that the right way to approach a strategy? Because you lose credibility. You know, the goal is great, but if you don't have a realistic way to get to that goal, then you could lose credibility for whatever cause you want to have. So that was kind of the idea that I was going to approach. And then last week's episode, I said, I'm not going to take any political stances. And so the whole thing just fell apart. Not because, again, I was going to take a political stance, but more because it is clearly a political, strategy. And I just didn't want to get into it. So I guess I've said all I want to say on that one. But what I do want to talk about this week is something that I said I would talk about in relation to a story that I told a couple episodes ago. And so you can go back to episode 113 and listen to that one to catch up. But essentially, I told the story on that episode of a refrigerator that I had gotten. And the refrigerator lasted about 5 years when I expected that it would last at least 20, if not more. And one of the things that I said, I was frustrated with, that whole episode really deals a lot more with, companies adding more technologies than we probably need, which causes more failure points. So that's really what I focused on. But I also mentioned another thing that I said I'd focus on in a future episode, and that had to do with the fact that the refrigerator lasted 5 years. My expectation was 20 plus years, but the warranty was 1 year. And so that was kind of a different direction of what the problem was. And I want to address that here today because I think this is a much broader issue, right? Much broader than, the amount of technology that companies are building into our products or anything like that. This is an issue having to do with almost every product you buy has a warranty that is far less than your expectation of how long the product should last. And the question is that a good strategy? Especially when something really obvious fails after the warranty period. So I want to talk about that. And again, this is not just about that refrigerator, sir. This is just about almost every product I've ever bought that has some failure point that happens just outside of the warranty period. And I mean, any one of us listening here, if you don't have a story like this, I'd be incredibly surprised. I'd say a fair number of products that I buy, I wouldn't say the majority, but a fair number of products that I buy, they do end up failing prematurely, in my opinion, outside of the warranty period. And then, so the warranty doesn't cover it. I'm stuck with a product that lasted a lot less than I thought it would. And there's a real problem. And many times that happens because the quality wasn't there. Maybe there was a design defect. Maybe they cheapened the materials. Maybe they didn't think the design all the way through. All of those things happen. And it frustrates us. It's so much so, by the way, that we almost have come to accept it, right? Because we're like, well, the warranty is almost meaningless. That doesn't actually, there's almost no way I'm going to capitalize on that, right? Sometimes we buy the extended warranties, and I know that's a big business, especially for retailers and independent parties and so forth. Sometimes for the companies as well that sell the extended warranties. So that's an extra way of making some revenue, sometimes recurring revenue. So I get that. I get that that's part of the plan as well. But I think there's a basic issue with, I get a product, I expect it to be designed properly, I expect it to last a certain period of time, the warranty expires, and just outside of that warranty period, something goes wrong. That was clearly a defect. Should the company make good on that? Well, clearly from a financial standpoint, a company would argue, well, the reason we have shorter warranties is because we don't want to make good on it, right? Things happen. The further away you get from the day that you bought it, the less likely it is that you're going to be able to attribute whatever problem you had to an actual manufacturing defect. Plus, things do wear out, things do happen. So where do you draw the line, right? What happens if the product fails 5 years or 10 years or whatever else? Is it something that we should back up? So the easier thing is to say, look, we'll give you a year. Outside of that, we're not paying. And if companies started kind of violating that, they would go down a slippery slope. If they made exceptions for one customer, another customer, whatever else, obviously they wouldn't do that because they have to treat everybody the same. If they tried to address issues on a case-by-case basis, meaning if they had a certain type of issue, then maybe they wouldn't address it like a normal wear and tear issues. But if they had an egregious issue where something broke that shouldn't have broken, even if it was outside of the warranty period, then they would address that. That's probably something that they could do. But what they'd get into there is they'd probably have to pay out a lot of money, right? That they wouldn't normally have to pay out because it was outside of the warranty period. So I think that's the way that most companies would make their choice, is to say it's outside the warranty period. I'm not going to take the financial hit, and we just wait for it to go away. The problem, though, I think from a consumer standpoint, I think that can hurt companies, right? Because I think what happens is, you dodged a bullet, but many of those customers who expected more out of your product, they're going to forever tag your brand with a label of it's not a high quality product. It's going to be a very damaging type of an approach to take. And those customers are either A, not going to buy your products anymore, or B, not going to be willing to pay a premium for your products anymore because they're going to see them as lower quality. So you dodged a financial bullet, but you pay for it in the long term. Now, sometimes companies have to do that because they wouldn't have enough cash on hand to be able to address the problems. And so I get that. But just, you do have to think about what the long-term effect of not addressing an issue outside of your warranty could be on your brand reputation. So it's just something to think about. The other thing that I wanted to talk to with this issue, and I think this is really important for companies, is when companies have short warranties, relatively short warranties, and I would, for most products, consider a year to be a pretty short warranty, and that seems to be the standard. When they have those short warranties, I think that they don't necessarily pay as much attention as they should to designing really high quality products, because they know that they don't have to really honor any problems that happen outside of that 1 year period. So they design the products to have at least a 1 year life. Outside of that, NMP, right? I don't think that's a good approach. And I don't know that it's always a conscious decision. On that episode 113, we talked about planned obsolescence, right? Where companies plan for their products to be obsolete. And I said there that I don't think that most companies do that in an evil, sinister way, right? They design a product that is absolutely going to fail in a year, whatever. Ha ha ha. Now I'm getting all your money. I don't think they do that. Maybe some do, but I don't think that's generally what happens. But I do think what can happen is when they know that they only have to design a product that is absolutely have to last for a year, that they don't put as much time and care into that product as they possibly could. They don't put as much testing into that product as they could, right? My refrigerator problem that I talked about was a broken wire harness. I don't want to redo that whole episode, but essentially the problem was a broken wire harness that was caused by a door that continuously opens and closes. Now, you can't tell me that couldn't have been tested for. Of course it could have been tested for. I know many industries that test repetitive actions in a laboratory and simulate many, 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 many years of repetitive actions to see what the effect of those repetitive actions would be on their parts. That company could have done that. They clearly didn't do that because they would have found the problem. Why didn't they do that? Well, I don't know exactly for that situation, but I would harbor a guess that they didn't do that because they knew that the product didn't have to last past the warranty, right? And again, whether that was the case in that particular situation, I'm quite certain that case exists. And so what happens, I think, is companies get lazy. So not only, is it, I think, a bad idea to not honor a problem that happens outside of the warranty, that's an egregious problem. I think it's even worse to design your products with your warranty or your short warranties in mind, when really you should be designing your products with your brand reputation in mind. I think that is going to pay back much more dividend than designing a product within your warranty period or to last within your warranty period, because I think that customers will end up paying you a lot more in the end if you pay attention to their true long-term needs. Now, that is a strategy, and both are strategies, right? And both are valid. It's just a matter of which one you want to take as a company. And just like everything, I think, with strategy, think it through, right? Don't just take things for granted. Think it through. If you want to design a product with as cheap components as possible because you don't have to have a warranty that's longer than a year, think through the long-term effects that might have. And also think through the opposite. Think through, hey, if I design a product that lasts way past the warranty and I intentionally put high quality components in there, what effect is that going to have on your brand reputation in the future? Again, make sure that those strategies and those strategic options are being analyzed, and make sure that your strategies are backing up what you really want to have happen with your products. So that's something just to think about, a couple of things to think about in regards to warranty. So hopefully that helps and maybe supplements that episode 113 in a way that I promised that I would. So while you're pondering this, go out to our website, check out our website at dearstrategy.net. Go ahead and click on the contact link. Ask us a question if you want it to be featured on the show. Share a story, share some thoughts. We'd love to hear from you and hear what you think. Tell me what you thought about this episode. Love to hear that as well. So go ahead and do that. Also, don't forget to go visit strategygeneration.com. That is the official website of my company, Strategy Generation Company. We offer strategy training and tools and workshops and coaching. So go out there, check out what we have to offer, and hopefully you'll find something that strikes your fancy. Is that a word? Is that a phrase? I'm not sure. But anyway, whatever it is, you get the point. Go out there and check us out. If you see something that you like, give us a contact there as well, and we'll see if we can help you with your next strategy development project. While you're doing all that, please don't forget to make time for the plan, and we will see you back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caparelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.